The misconception of price crossing was the most difficult year for decision-making in China. The situation is chaotic and complex, with various elements blending into different arrangements, the combination of policies. And behind the complexity lies the confrontation of interests and strategies, which makes it difficult for relevant parties to understand the situation. However, policies that have been overturned have been repeatedly taught by the market, such as price limit orders and external limit orders, which are equivalent to diminishing usage. Multiple equilibria are leading macroeconomic regulation towards macroeconomic coordination, but this does not mean that the original path was wrong, but rather that the space for success has been squeezed out. The reason why decision-making is so difficult is that the logical clues to the crux of the problem have not been sorted out yet, and we don't know how to take the path of comprehensive marketization. So we can only lie on the ground, just as we have just become familiar with the marketization of consumer goods prices. Its history quietly passes by, while the prices of production factors a crisis is brewing. Firstly, asset prices are facing deep adjustments. The stock price has been halved, bank wealth management products have disappeared, private equity and QDII have been liquidated, and land prices have performed a roller coaster. The turning point of housing prices is in direct confrontation with diving, and credit has tightened the funding chain of some real estate companies, leading to an asset price crisis. Secondly, the prices of resource goods are all trending red, although domestic resource prices have not yet been fully liberalized. The surge in international oil prices, grain prices, gold prices, and other factors has driven domestic prices to skyrocket, causing fluctuations in non-ferrous metal prices. In March, the factory prices of crude oil and raw coal increased by % year-on-year. The inverted oil prices both domestically and internationally have caused oil giants to suffer more and more losses, with Sinopec's performance declining by % in the first quarter and frequent oil shortages. Thirdly, the labor price crisis has been released early by domestic and foreign factors. The subprime mortgage crisis has brought about massive layoffs in the financial industry. In the past 9 months, Wall Street has laid off more than jobs. Global inflation has kept wage growth from keeping pace with CPI growth. From American writers to NDH police to British teachers, strikes have become a means of demanding wage increases. The domestic labor cost has also been steadily increasing due to the implementation of the new labor law, the increase in minimum wage standards, and the mismatch between labor supply and demand. In the first quarter, the average salary of urban on-the-job workers increased by % year-on-year, while pilots, the financial civilization itself, is also undergoing mutation and development, especially in the past years, where the world's finance has been changing and unpredictable against the backdrop of the lingering capital. Financial civilization is increasingly showing its power. First of all, financial civilization gradually transcends industrial civilization, and its laws are completely different from the law of value of industrial civilization. When financial civilization knocks at the door, many people familiar with the laws of traditional industrial civilization are realize later and use the wrong rules of industrial civilization to calculate. The result missed out on the benefits bestowed by financial civilization. LTCM, a hedge fund company managed by Nobel laureates who are proficient in the most complex risk products and models, fell on the eve of financial civilization, and billion arbitrage funds were wiped out. When the British Chancellor of the Exchequer was about to rise in the price of gold, he mistakenly estimated the situation and left more than half of Britain's gold reserve at the lowest point in years, which caused the British government to lose at least £1 billion, leading the Parliament to ask him to settle accounts in the autumn. Secondly, financial civilization has high requirements for the quality of other civilizations grafted onto it. If they can match each other, it will have a significant amplification effect on the achievements of other civilizations. Otherwise, reverse results will occur. Former British Prime Minister Thatcher keenly seized the key to the financial explosion and implemented a major transformation of the securities market, creating a new City of London and ushering in a new era of British finance. On the contrary, the Japanese version of the financial explosion backfired, not only failing to unleash vitality in Japanese finance, but also plunging it into numerous crises. The root cause is a lack of understanding of the special laws of financial civilization. Currently, a new wave of financial civilization is quietly hitting the Asian coast. But the panic of the financial crisis, these old experiences have deeply rooted in people's hearts, making people from all walks of life afraid of what is about to happen. Southeast Asian countries that have experienced the financial crisis are typical representatives, and they have strong vigilance against the current global liquidity surplus and asset price rise. Many countries have already started deploying in late and early such as Vietnam, the Philippines, Thailand, India, etc., which have strengthened financial regulations in advance, in order to mitigate the risk of capital flight. Thailand even resorted to government intervention, which was counterproductive, while opposition to free currency floating suddenly. Deliberation, but punishment is not applicable to officials, which is not detrimental to the increasing trend of administrative monopoly. Objectively speaking, behind this phenomenon of slow and swift dual heaven, there is a change in the weather of reform, which means reform we have shifted from the field of ideology to a strategic layout at the level of interests. During the pro-reform period, the attention of various sectors of society was focused on the basic direction of society, such as whether the reform should be carried out, whether it was capitalist or socialist, etc. This also sparked two major reform debates in the early and early Deng Xiaoping cleverly bypassed these ideological disputes and successfully opened up an era of development through his speeches on three treatises and Southern Expedition. In the post-reform period, reforms were constantly hijacked and internalized by interest groups. And people with rice in their hands began to let their buttocks determine their minds, setting various obstacles at the level of interests. As for the current regulation of capital finance and the rapid efforts of state-owned enterprises and state-owned enterprises, but the slow response to market construction and scientific coordination, this seemingly split phenomenon is the result of the distribution of interests. Take China Investment Corporation as an example. CIC has gathered a group of H-level officials from the Ministry of Finance, Huajin Corporation, the China Banking Regulatory Commission, and the National Development and Reform Commission. It is not difficult to infer from the identities of influential senior officials at the ministerial and deputy levels that CIC has actually concentrated the ideas and interests of a generation. The chairman was originally a reformist expert in the market economy known as one of the three swordsmen of economic system reform. But later, as the official ladder rose, he became obsessed with the effectiveness of state-owned and administrative monopolies. If it is said that this dual personality of front and back fracture is caused by the buttocks determining the brain, it is probably not too much. The duality of this personality is more evident in another reformist swordsman, the general manager of CIC. As one of the earliest sea turtles to land in China, he returned home from Wall Street in the S with the belly full of Western economics Inc. Similar remarks such as "what we want is a clean market and let the market manage the market" clearly indicates his market-oriented background. Due to his successful initiation of the establishment of the Chinese securities market, he also rose to prominence in his career. Afterwards, he also showed a similar fascination with the hands of the government. In terms of this issue, the leaders in relevant fields between China and the United States essentially belong to the same group of people. In fact, superstitious markets and superstitious state-owned enterprises belong to the same era. Experts and scholars mostly believe in the market, while officials, most people, are superstitious about the state. This generation of experts and scholars has been basically indoctrinated with classic Western economic theories advocating for the magical power of the invisible hand of the market and reducing government intervention. Among these scholars, the most typical is Wu Jinglian, who is Wu market, and Gao Xiqing and others were influenced by it. As for contemporary officials, they always believed in the power of the government, believed in cybernetics, and preferred to concentrate their efforts on major issues, which was also the main source of the lingering state-owned concept. Between these two, those scholarly officials who excel in learning and become officials, who have achieved the transition from being experts and scholars to officials, have experienced a personality split. They are both superstitious about the market and difficult to resist the temptation of state-owned enterprises, towering above the temple and guiding the country. To put it simply, they are using the market to gain benefits and administrative monopolies to profit from competition. In recent years, officials who have parachuted into state-owned Banks as bosses have used the name of shareholding and marketization to give rise to the phenomenon of millions of annual salaries, which is just a microcosm of it. As for market efficiency and government efficiency, whether in the entire history of economics or in the middle, who is higher or lower, there has been a long-standing debate in the process of market-oriented reform in China. Putting aside the linear thinking of either this or that, objectively speaking, the key to better and healthier reform lies in having or hedging these two efficiencies. From the perspective of value orientation, relevant departments want to have both market efficiency and government efficiency, and objectively, the great success of the Chinese economy in the past years also depends on the full combination of these two. However, in recent years, the frequency of hedging between the two sides has increased. Whether it is health care reform, housing reform, education reform, public utility reform, resource price reform, etc., it is either too market-oriented or the government's power is too strong, resulting in obvious negative consequences of hedging. The efficiency of the U.S. government is very high, and its glory comes from the combined force of plus generated by the superposition of two efficiencies. But it deceives other countries to give up regulation and only want a market economy. If Chinese reformers listen to their deceit, as long as the market does not want government efficiency, they will undoubtedly be deceived.